I guess we'll start. So good morning or good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our Tri-Peaks webinar, Advancing Reconciliation, the Impact of Reconciliation Action Plans. My name is Pauline Marquardt, and I am the Director for Strategic Innovations at the Centre. I am fifth generation Murray woman. My matriarch songlines crisscross inland Queensland, and my maternal grandfather was a Wiradjuri man from Young in New South Wales. I've lived and worked and raised my children on the Kulin Nation country in Victoria for the past 25 years, and I would like to acknowledge and thank the traditional owners and their custodians of this nation for sharing their land, culture with me and my family group. The Centre for Excellence is in Naarm, which is on the traditional lands of the Kulin Nation. The Kulin Nation is a collective of 5 First Nations clans: Wurundjeri, Boonwurrung, Wathaurong, Taungurung and Dja Dja Wurrung. I would like to pay respects to the Victorian Aboriginal traditional owners and custodians of this land, the waterways where we work, and we also recognise that our work is delivered on many lands across the Kulin Nation. Today's webinar is part of the Tri-Peaks Partnership Initiative, which is a collaboration between the Centre for Excellence in Child and Family Welfare, the Victorian Healthcare Association, and the Victorian Drug and Alcohol Association. We work to support an integrated practice and good governance across the 3 sectors. Today's webinar will highlight some of the tangible, positive and sustainable impacts of the Reconciliation Action Plan program, which has been focused on advancing reconciliation in Australia. With data on employment, procurement, uptake of the RAP activities, the report shows that programs are creating tangible benefits for organisations and First Nations peoples. So you'll hear today from Emily Johnson, who is the RAP Officer, Development and Outreach with Reconciliation Australia, and Rob Russell, who is the National Director, Reconciliation Life Without Barriers. So I'm going to hand over to Emily now to introduce herself, and then she will hand over to Rob to introduce himself. And thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm zooming in from the Reconciliation Australia Sydney office. So that's the land of the Gadigal. I'm a Barkindji, Lachi, Waka Waka and Birrigubba woman. I originally grew up in Broken Hill, which is my father's country, but I've had the privilege of going to school and working here on Gadigal country. And I'd also like to pay my respects to those elders for allowing me to work here and learn from them. And I am one of the RAP officers in the, as Pauline mentioned, development and outreach. So all I do is review all of the RAPs, and it gives me a great overview of what everybody is doing. I will also pass over to you, Rob, to introduce yourself as well.
Thanks, Emily. Hi, I'm Rob Russell. I'm the National Director of Reconciliation Life Without Barriers. I'm a Gomeroi man. I'm from the Natty family from up around Gunnedah and Boggabri in northwestern New South Wales. I pay my respects to my ancestors. I also am privileged to live in Newcastle. So I also acknowledge the ancient Awabakal people as the traditional custodians of the land where I live and work, and thank them for the privilege of living on their country. Thanks, Pauline. I guess it's back to you.
Thank you, and thanks for you both for joining us. So you're going to hear from Emily.
Can I jump into the chat's now live? So sorry about that, everyone.
Oh, great. Excellent. So throughout the webinar today, we're encouraging you to put any questions or comments or reactions in the chat. We will have a little bit of time at the end to do some Q&A. You'll hear from Emily, who's going to be giving you an overview of the reconciliation program. She's also going to cover some of the, I guess, implementation as well. And then we'll hear from Rob to hear about Life Without Barriers and what they've been doing in their journey. And like I said, towards the end, we'll have a bit of time for Q&A. So Emily, I'll hand to you.
Great. Well, I'm going to share my screen now. Sharing. Here we go. I hope that this audio works, but I like to start off with this video. And this is something that we present to all new RAP partners or future, hopefully, RAP partners to really demonstrate, I guess, the purpose of the RAP program. And I'll just click play now. Just flag with me if you can't hear any audio. One second, I can't hear the audio either. Sharing options. Sorry, Ollie, are you able to assist? Share sound.
Yeah, 1 second.
Oh, I've got it. I think I've got it. How's
All of us.
Beautiful.
It is a story that
Can you hear it now?
involves all of us. It's a journey we've already been walking for many years. A Reconciliation Action Plan, or RAP, provides a strategic framework to drive an organisation's contribution to the reconciliation movement. RAPs leverage organisational structures and their diverse spheres of influence to create change that reaches the whole nation. The aim of each RAP is to create culturally safe and welcoming workplaces and to foster deeper connections between Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and the wider Australian community. A RAP is guided by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander perspectives and provides a chance for all staff to contribute to and benefit from advancing reconciliation. Currently, there are 4 types of RAPs that an organisation can develop: reflect, innovate, stretch, and elevate. All 4 RAP types are important and valuable. The framework is not linear, but provides organisations with flexibility. Organisations start with a reflect or innovate RAP and can then shift between RAP types depending on their individual goals, actions, and outcomes. The different RAP types provide a structure to allow an organisation to continually grow and develop their contributions to the reconciliation movement in new ways. Every new RAP partner joins a community of thousands of diverse organisations across Australia, all working together to maximise impact and contribute to the national reconciliation movement. What matters most is being involved. A RAP is an opportunity to make an impact on the direction of the nation. So, what's your organisation's vision for Australia's future? To find out more or start your RAP journey, visit reconciliation.org.au.
all right? I will stop sharing my screen now. All right. So that was our overview of the RAP program. Sorry, I'm just having technical difficulty. I will share now without that audio. Okay. Sorry about that. So RAPs address the 5 dimensions of reconciliation, which is a part of Reconciliation Australia's vision. So these are the areas of race relations, equality and equity, unity, institutional integrity, and historical acceptance. You may already be familiar with the RAP types. So these are, you can elect whether you're at a more foundational level. You can develop a reflect RAP, and those are usually 12 to 18 months in duration, and they're really about developing, researching, and identifying. The next stage is the innovate RAP. These are for 2 years, and they offer you the opportunity to test or pilot relationships and projects and really get to advance on what you've built in your reflect. There is also the stretch RAP, which is for organisations interested in embedding their work for 2 to 3 years. And then there's the elevate. So elevate is more for leadership, and it's really about transforming and driving that systemic change. Here are some stats that we've gathered through our RAP Impact Measurement Questionnaire, which this year is called the RAP Impact Survey. It just reach out to us as well if you haven't received your link, but you should have got that already. And this just captures, I guess, some of the revenue as well as from procurement, as well as First Nations employment. And this demonstrates, I guess, real tangible outcomes within our RAP partners. And that is, I think, evidence to the direct impact of formalizing some of the efforts that you're already implementing in your businesses. Here's another infographic for those that like infographics, really capturing, I guess, in the different streams, some of those targets that were mentioned previously. I guess I wanted to quickly talk through as well what working with reconciliation looks like. As I said before, RAPs are a great opportunity to really formalize and strategize the efforts that you may already be taking in your business or your organization. We provide you with the RAP templates. Oh, sorry, I'll let Ollie share. I think there was, oh,
There's just some black boxes coming up on the screen, Emily. Sorry about that. I'll just yeah, go.
Yeah.
Yeah, feel free to go ahead. Sorry.
Templates and resources. So you do get a template for the innovate and reflect and stretch. But these are basically a guide. You will have a RAP officer assigned to you, so they'll be there to help you develop that. We also have information as well as regular office hours sessions that you can sign up to. And those are group sessions where you can speak to us if you have particular questions. And then also, moving through this process means that you will have a formally endorsed reconciliation action plan, and you will sit amongst our cohort of organizations and partners. There is a page available called the Who Has a RAP page, and you can toggle the different fields and really see what sectors have RAPs. And I think the next slide. Great. So these are the drafting resources that we can provide you with. I might actually put in the chat, we do have links for an overview of the RAP framework as well as developing your vision for reconciliation. That's more for innovate level partners, and that will, I guess, shape your unique impact in the reconciliation movement. There's also information about formalizing your RAP working groups, as well as establishing First Nations representation, which is an essential component of Innovate and Upwards. There's also ways to identify your sphere of influence, which is a great tool to, I guess, see just how far-reaching your impact could be. And we also have an inclusive and respectful language guide. Your RAP officer will give you in-document commentary about the specific kind of language that our RAPs follow. And we also have information about how to make your deliverables and your actions sustainable and actually realistic so that you can have the best outcomes. This is just, I guess, a flow chart of what it looks like once you do submit. And this is just a reminder, once you do register with us, you have up to 12 months to submit that first review. So just make sure that you do that and keep in contact with us. And the final stage is that final endorsement. And this is, the tips for RAP development. So as I said, having those realistic timeframes is very important. And all the feedback we give you, there is essential as well as suggested feedback. Just following that is very important to make sure that your document is I guess, reaching its full potential. Yes, and we have a RAP submission portal. So just making sure that you are utilizing that portal to submit your RAPs ensures that your officer gets notified as soon as it's received. Another element of this with submissions, if you feel that you need more time with an endorsed RAP, as long as you stay in communication with us and you're fulfilling your reporting requirements, so that's the RAP impact survey, you will still be considered an active RAP partner. And you can reach out to us anytime through the RAP team email. But I guess that's a speed run of the RAP program overview. I think it's important to open it up for question time because I'm sure there will be many questions. I can see in the Q&A function might be easier just so that you can vote up any questions. I can try and have a look. Here we go. Share the link to the RAP video. Oh, absolutely. So that the RAP video is available on our YouTube. And we have some other videos with, I guess, case studies on successful RAPs.
I have some questions down here, but I can't seem to find them now.
I can give you some tips as well on registration fees for those that are new. These are based on your annual revenue, or if you're a not-for-profit, it'd be based off your yearly budget. I'm going to put a link in the chat to which has more information on fees.
Emily, I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit. There is a question about when you get to an Innovate RAP, there is a potential subscription to the supply nation in terms of procurement. So I'm just wondering, if there are challenges for particular small organisations and not-for-profit organisations that can't afford the subscription, are there other ways that organisations can go about thinking about the procurement of Aboriginal businesses without actually?
Yeah. So that's used as a starting point because it's one of the most comprehensive indexes or directories. But there are other services that you can utilize. We also encourage partners to think about procurement as your purchasing power as well. So you may not be doing large contracting, but even having a preference in place for seeking out First Nations businesses for any services or purchases. That's another way that you can show commitment to socioeconomic growth. But as you do submit that draft, even if you put in something in the realm that you think works for you, your RAP officer will be able to give you guided feedback on that.
Beautiful, thanks. There's a question in the front in the chat. Can you talk a little bit how you might go about raising with leadership starting out on the journey of reconciliation?
Yep, so one of the elements of a RAP is the RAP champion. So we encourage organisations to appoint no more than 2, and they should be senior leaders. So that's probably where I would start. And this role, the purpose is to lead internal engagement. So they should have direct engagement or influence and contact with all departments or areas of the business. And they're able to, I guess, champion upwards the recommendations and the needs of your RAP working group. But we also have a speaker request available, especially if you want one of our team members to speak to your organisation or your RAP working group. If you need someone to, again, I guess, give a bolster of support, that is also available.
Excellent. I can see from the polls, it looks like there's a lot of our participants today on a Reflect Draft.
Yep.
So that's pretty cool. And thanks to those people who put that in there. So is there anything in particular people would like to hear from Emily while you have her today?
I can see one from Lauren. Are there word limits on the Reflect RAP reporting document? We're preparing our Reflect report currently, and then when the questions are printed out, it doesn't indicate limits. Oh, so there's no word limit. It's just when you are submitting, I believe it's 5 megabytes, the size of the document. As long as it's a Word document, I think you should be fine. Just avoid putting any images or extensive design into your document until you receive conditional endorsement. That's when you start moving to a final draft. So if you can just keep it as text in a Word document, that should ensure that you could submit to the portal.
There's a question there about what are some of the costs involved with developing and implementing an authentic RAP. So I think that comes from reconciliation working groups thinking about what a budget might be, and then a board actually saying, well, we're going to give you a budget. So could you just maybe talk a little bit about that?
Yep. So I think it's based differently as well on the size of your organization and the funds available. But there is a large, I guess, portion of our partners who move to ensuring that that First Nations representation, especially if they're a permanent member on your RAP working group and if they're an external consultant, would be one of the fees that you'd have to consider. There's also the commissioning and licensing of your RAP artwork, which doesn't also necessarily have to be First Nations. You can opt to use your organization's branding, but just ensuring that if you are doing that, we also have a best practice guide, which I can put in the chat about how to ensure that you're commissioning and using Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander artworks and images respectfully. Another element of funding would be, I think, this is also answered in the Reflect. You can really pitch, I guess, the scope of what you want to do, whether it's just hosting your own NRW events or NAIDOC events. But when you do work on those business cases, so there's a business case for that you've developed for formal employment, recruitment, and retention strategy, as well as a business case for procurement. So that could be as in-depth or as surface level as you want. But I think that as well assists you to really start requesting budgeting and resourcing.
Beautiful. We've got a question from Jane. She would like to know, what are some of the direct benefits to organisations who establish a RAP? Can you give some examples?
Great. Yeah, one of the direct benefits, and I did have it in that infographic. I might even be able to share those slides. One of the direct benefits is we know through our in the respect and relationships pillars specifically, learning cultural diversity within your workplace, and even cultural procurement in terms of diversity and inclusion. We know that this is valuable for any target group, but especially I work in the construction and infrastructure portfolio. By having First Nations representation internally, it really does assist you to access country and have those conversations, which makes your business, I guess, operate authentically. And that's a new sphere that I'm seeing develop in that industry, which I'm also very passionate about, ensuring cultural heritage and the protection of sacred sites. And I think that is an ambitious goal, but having that internally and showing that respect and having representation in your day-to-day business is just as valuable. I've got a question from Faith. Can a current self-employed organisation be involved in promoting and participating in a RAP? Self-employed. Is that meaning volunteers? I'm not sure.
we might be able to follow up with Faith.
Yeah, we can follow up on that because
Yeah.
it's kind of limited to organisations who have paid employees, where we are trying to learn ways to, I guess, engage with the volunteer or subscription industry, but that's still something TBC.
Beautiful. We might come back to you, Emily, as questions keep coming through, but I'd love to hear from you, Rob, about Life Without Barriers and what you've been doing, and give the participants online a bit of an insight into your journey and what it might look like.
Thanks, Pauline. Well, our journey at Life Without Barriers began in 2009 when we embarked on our first Reflect RAP. We're now RAP number 5, and we are at Elevate level. We're the first not-for-profit in the service sector to become an Elevate RAP member. And we're very, very proud of that, because when you become an Elevate member, it means you have basically transformed your business around your RAP aspirations and your RAP desired outcomes. That fundamentally changed the way the business operates. Our RAP's divided into 2 main components. One is the transformation project, the other is 3 pillars and governance. The transformation project, in essence, means that over the next 10 years, Life Without Barriers is going to step away from providing care in the child protection system for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children. We're going to step away and make sure that those children can be cared for by community-controlled organisations, extended family, kinship carers or foster carers who are more culturally appropriate and provide more culturally safe environments for those children in care. This is a major undertaking, and it means that over the next 10 years, Life Without Barriers is going to divest itself of about 30% of its business to make that happen. The second component of our Elevate RAP, we call 3 pillars and governance, is about those 3 pillars of relationships, respect and opportunities, founded on strong governance. So that is about our relationships with Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander organisations, with other sector partners. It's about respect for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture through the way we change our workplace and make our workplace a more culturally safe environment. Opportunities, Emily spoke a fair bit about procurement and purchasing from Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander organisations. We have a very strong procurement strategy in place to expand our procurement, but also to encourage others within the sector to expand their procurement. And the strong governance is about making sure that we very accurately record what we do, particularly in terms of the impact that we have on the people we support, reporting that accurately, and then communicating that to a wider audience to show to people that this can be done. And I'll just go back a bit to our transformation project. We've entered a 10-year partnership with Snake, the Voice for Our Children, which is a very, very significant undertaking by us, and we are very ably backed in that through our relationship with Reconciliation Australia. Snake, as the national peak for Aboriginal community-controlled organisations in the child protection space, the relationship with them is fundamental to what we are trying to undertake. So the main thrust of what we're trying to do is to make sure that community-controlled organisations are able to take on the role of caring for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander kids in care through capacity building, by making sure that they are They have the systems in place. They have adequately trained staff. They are fully accredited in all states and territories. In order to do some of this work, we are individually and as a group petitioning state and territory governments to change their legislation, to change the approaches that they take to the child protection system, to make it easier for us to make sure that this handover of children takes place in the best possible way. We are attempting through our relationships with other Elevate RAP partners to establish a think tank of sharing our resources and experiences to make sure that we are better able to educate everybody that's able to come in and be part of this space. The 3 pillars and governance component, I talked about our workplace. So we are at all times attempting to make sure that our workplace environments are racism free, and in fact we are introducing cultural safety as the norm within Life Without Barriers, so that we can eliminate racism and discrimination in the workplace, react positively when there are incidents of racism and discrimination reported. But the other side of that is that we must better recruit, retain and advance our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander workforce. To do that, we must better educate our non-Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander workforce at the same time. It's not all about one part of the puzzle. It's about focusing on all parts of the puzzle. So we're introducing individual cultural learning plans for staff, where we talk about cultural humility and cultural responsiveness, and ensuring that people are aware that once you know a little bit about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture, it should encourage you to dig further and further into it from a personal level. As you become more culturally humble, you will understand that you are literally just scratching the surface of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture in trying to learn more and become more culturally adept. Part of our commitment as an Elevate RAP is to ensure other organisations inside and outside the sector are able to either begin or advance their journey along the reconciliation action plan path. So I leave myself open at all times. Anybody who wants to contact me from an organisation for assistance in promoting, developing, initiating their own reconciliation action plan, I'm happy to talk to them. Reconciliation Australia support me in every way they can to make that happen, because we want as many organisations as possible to become lighthouses in this space. We want to ensure that organisations with RAP are not just groups of people with good intentions, but groups of people with good intentions who have high impact outside of the work that they do. This is so important in terms of reconciliation and self-determination for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. And we don't, within Life Without Barriers, we don't say the word reconciliation on its own anymore. It's always followed by self-determination. Because I make the argument that reconciliation is a white fella word. It is a government response to the deaths in custody report. But what Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people want is self-determination, is the capacity and ability to determine their own futures and make decisions for themselves on issues that impact on them.
Beautiful.
Well, I could go on.
It's like, and I'm sure we could all sit here all day and listen to you, because not only can we hear your commitment to the work with Life Without Barriers, but it's also, as another Aboriginal person listening to you speak, it is reassuring and really heartfelt that I can get some inspiration from you as well. And there's lots of praise for Life Without Barriers in the chat. It's amazing work, and thank you for sharing today.
No, pleasure, Pauline, and I'm
Yes.
just incredibly proud of being able to work for an organisation like Life Without Barriers, who has made such a deep commitment to making this happen.
One of the questions, Rob, that's in here while you're talking about that is, can you share some of the strategies that that Life Without Barriers has used to eliminate racism? Are there some strategies you can talk to?
I spoke a little bit before about individual cultural learning plans. We're giving every employee and carer, we have 8,000 employees and 3,000 carers across the organisation nationally. We're giving each one of them the opportunity to go in their own cultural learning pathway that we will support them in. If people are better educated and responsive to the diversity of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture across the country, I think it makes them more inquisitive about making sure that they respond in the most appropriate ways, but it also should give them the confidence to ask questions, to be able to, rather than sit there and do nothing because they don't want to offend someone or they don't want to break a protocol, to say, can you explain this to me a little bit more? I know something, but I would like to know a lot more. And just asking that question invites dialogue. It invites collaboration. It invites people to communicate with you on a one-to-one basis about exactly what they do want to happen.
Yeah.
That's one strategy. We've gone back through all of our policies, practice guides, and frameworks, and we are revamping them all, bringing them all up to date to make sure that in every one of those policies and procedures and practice guidelines, we make a massive point of saying we will not stand for any racism in the workplace or discrimination in the workplace, that people need to seek better individual understanding of what is racism and discrimination, so that they're aware that, one, that they don't do it themselves, but two, that they don't remain silent when they see it from others.
Yeah. And just on that point, from the centre we're currently drafting our Innovate Wrap, and that's exactly what we're doing, Rob. We're looking at our policies and our processes, and really thinking about how do we go back and either refresh them or redraft them and rewrite them so that there is a zero tolerance on racism and discrimination in the organisation.
We've slightly changed the language we use within the organisation.
Yes.
We no longer use the term cultural competence,
yep.
because that indicates that you have reached a level and you can tick a box and say, I'm culturally competent.
Yes.
We don't believe that you can ever be fully culturally competent.
Yes.
So you can be culturally capable, but we push those perspectives of cultural humility, and that's about self-reflection. That's what I talked before about. I know a little bit about Aboriginal culture, but having learned a little bit, I realise I know very little about so much other stuff.
Yeah.
I'm an Aboriginal man, and there is so much I've got to learn.
Yeah.
So once we get that across to people and they become, and cultural fitness is another one where people on a regular basis reflect and say, if you were going to run in a marathon, you'd become physically fit. Well, if you're going to impose yourself into Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities and into relationships with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, you have to train for that too. You have to make sure that your own cultural fitness is up to standard.
A really great way to put it. I've never thought about it like that, but it's absolutely culturally fit. There's a question in the chat for you, or for all of us, I think. It's from Justine, and she is speaking about language, so just on the topic of language. In her organisation, she is being encouraged to use the language of First Nations by her First Nations colleagues. And she's asking Well, she's asking, does anyone have a comment on that? So this is where international language is heading.
I might speak from,
yeah.
I guess, our demonstrating respectful language guide. We've got, I guess, a breakdown of the use of language, especially terminology. We're moving away from using Indigenous, which is understood by a lot of community to be an offensive term. But of course, this has different criteria. So if it is an Aboriginal controlled organisation or a Indigenous person themselves, and that's their wording, they're allowed to use that. You just have to let us know in the comments of your RAP or in an email that is the terminology that you'll be using. We also encourage RAPs to use inclusive language. So reconciliation is a national movement which targets the 5 dimensions of reconciliation that affect both Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. We also acknowledge that we're very diverse people, and we have a lot of our community who are Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander. That's where you can utilise and/or in your wording, but I think there is also a push for using First Nations to really encompass the diversity of many of our nations who may not agree with the wording of Aboriginal or even Torres Strait Islander. They may prefer their nation or their tribe name. So First Nations is a respected and understood terminology. If your stakeholders and your First Nations colleagues want to use, you'd be supported to do so.
Beautiful, well said. Bob, did you have any comment on the use of the terms?
Within Life Without Barriers, we don't use the term Indigenous anymore. We've had feedback from staff who have said that's a bit of a generic term and often misunderstood and misused. We don't use First Nations as well. There's been some parts of our community who have said, no, that's a North American, Canadian term, and we'll leave it for them to use. So we almost exclusively use Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander within Life Without Barriers, and doing it that way keeps it really simple. Everybody knows what is the preferred term, and that's what we use.
Well, speaking on behalf of the centre, we are using the term First Nations because in Victoria there is as Emily said, there's a real preference for our Aboriginal communities here to be aligned with their nations and their tribal groups. So that's the line that we're taking for now, but that might change. But we've kind of been guided by our community.
And that, again, Pauline, just underscores the fact that every location's different. What works in one doesn't necessarily in another. And we need to be cognizant of that and aware of that and responsive to that. But again, like I said before, open up a dialogue, communicate, talk to each other.
Beautiful. So, Rob, there's been an ask if you could talk a little bit about your artwork in your RAP. Could you give us a bit of a...
Well, I'd love to talk more about our artwork, but that was done before I got here.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Those artists, Keisha and Emily, worked on the previous RAP, which was our stretch RAP, and our chief executive, Claire, who is our RAP champion, which we're very grateful for, was so impressed with it that she commissioned them to do the work for the Elevate RAP. Hopefully there's a bit more information in the RAP that can talk to it. But again, it's about the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander world is always seen in circles because that's how we operate. The Western world likes to put things in compartments, in boxes, and categorise them so that if you're in one, you can't be in another. But you would be fully aware, Pauline, that in our world, everything is interrelated with everything else. And that's why the circles work so beautifully. in expressing that.
It's stunning. Have you used your artwork exclusively for the wrap, or have Life Without Barriers applied it to like signature blocks and PowerPoint templates and that sort of thing? How have you used the artwork?
Well, we asked the artists to give us a design guide on how we should use individual elements of the artwork, so that now right across the organisation, different elements are used for different types of stationery and communications, and in different strategic directorates within the organisation. But everybody has the same guide to work from, so there's no guessing, there's no guesswork involved. If you want to use something like that, we seek permission from the artists too when we change something of any great stature or magnitude, so that we're always faithful to their initial designs and their initial philosophy behind the artwork. We're very, very careful about we treat it almost like it's sacred scripture, not to be toyed with, but to be referred to as often as possible.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. The centre has just so our reconciliation working group, we have just engaged a young Aboriginal artist, local artist, to do our to work with us for our artwork for this next wrap, and it's been a really great experience, because I haven't actually been part of that procurement of that before. So working with our working group to work up what it is that we would like, and then having a young person come and talk to us and build that relationship, it's actually becoming more about the storytelling rather than doing a piece of art. So it's been really a really lovely experience to connect with that young artist, and we're really mindful of, you know, what are the next steps. We've just renovated our building as well, so we are going to ask permission if we can have the original artwork placed in a position in the new building, so that it maintains that connection between not just the wrap but the organisation, and the connection with the employees and employees rather, and our stakeholders, so that when they come in, that, you know, it's a place of significance, so we can continue that sharing of the work.
Yeah, we view it the same way, that we try to make it a visual reminder wherever you go that this is the focus of the organisation. This is where our future lies, and we are committed to making that future happen. Yeah,
it's beautiful. That's beautiful. I am conscious of the time, and I would like to throw to Emily. Is there anything else, Emily, you would like to add in terms of if people want to reach out and contact you, can they do so, and how can they do that? And also, Rob, if people wanted to reconciliation working groups in other organisations to hear today, members might want to reach out for some inspiration, how might they do that?
Yeah, I'm, like I said before, I'm open for anyone to contact me. It's really simple: rob.russell, 2 S's and 2 L's, @lwb.org.au. Happy to take any requests, and I'll respond as quickly as I can, because that's a really important part of our commitment, is to help other organisations. We like to look at ourselves as a maybe we are leaders in the sector, and take as many of our sector partners along on this journey with us, because ultimately it's Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and children in care and communities that are going to benefit from this work. So let's dig right in and make it happen the best way we can. If you go onto our website and send an email, if you can't remember mine, to one of the contacts there, they eventually find their way to me. So I'm happy to provide.
I've got your email address as well, so if you're happy for me, I can add it to the chat as well.
Yep, that'd be great.
And Emily, is that okay to
Yeah, if you have any I guess direct questions for me, you can email me at emily.johnson@reconciliation. I'm just typing it.
Awesome.
.org.au. But also, if you're developing your app or registering, you can reach out to the RAP team inbox for more direct feedback on that.
And I can testify that the RAP group is at Reconciliation are fantastic. They run webinars that you can jump into. They've got a great little network where you can jump on and put questions in. It's been they're really great support through the process. So it's not just about the process, it's also about building those relationships with other organisations who are working through the process as well. And what I really love about it is it's a diverse range of people, and it's not all Aboriginal people who are having to answer questions and being the source of information. It's actually a really diverse group, so it's really, really lovely. So we might get ready to sign off for our webinar, but just, I guess, a couple of final comments. I'd just like to say thanks, Emily and Rob, today. A couple of key takeaways from me have really been the whole puzzle, Rob. I really like that analogy. It's not all the individual pieces, it's about the whole puzzle and bringing it all together. And the cultural learning and the culturally fit is something I'm going to definitely take back to our working group. I think that is, again, a visual, but also something that we can all show how we can all work together on our reconciliation journey. And to Emily, the strengths between the relationships, I think, is something that I've taken away from your presentation today, that it is, whether it's our First Nations or our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities and our non-Aboriginal communities coming together for the benefit of the whole of Australia, and in our cases, people online, it's for the whole of our organisations, working together to create better places, right, for our children, our communities, our clients, whether they're in child and family services, whether they're in drug and alcohol services, or whether they're in community health services. So thank you so much for today. We will add Emily and Rob's emails into the chat, and appreciate you coming along today.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.